Now I had it set, but for some reason it didn't get started as it should. So we'll see if it is gonna start now. But I have the stream going based on the key that we got. Okay, I think we may be there now. All right, welcome, folks. Welcome to Politics Done, rather, welcome to Politics Done Right on Egberto off the record. We should be streaming successfully now, I think. And I'll wait before I get, yep, we are streaming. Wait before I get more of you on the line before we get started. In the interim, let's see what Bernie is doing. And while we wait for you, let's listen to a little bit of Bernie and see what he's talking about because it's pretty serious what's going on in Congress right now.
Of our nation's seniors are trying to survive on less than $15,000 a year.
We'll
My
get
First
started in a
Amendment would
minute.
fundamentally improve their lives in two significant ways. Number one, it would cut the price of prescription drugs under Medicare in half by making sure that our nation's seniors do not pay any more
There
than
we go.
Europeans or Canadians pay for the same exact drugs. By making sure. And number two, with those savings,
Okay,
we're going
we're
to
here now.
expand Medicare to cover dental, vision, and hearing. In other words, instead of
Right now what's happening in on the Senate floor is the Democrats are, talking through the bill, talking through what the bill is, the bad things the bills are doing, and much more. Okay, so far we've got three people in the house. Can you identify yourself? We have Joe says, "Hello, I had a hard time finding the link. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. I actually got started a bit late because the link apparently I put in the wrong link or something of that nature. So let's wait a bit and see if more people will come in. But anyway, what I want to talk about today is a few things that I found out about the big ugly bill, but not only what I found out about the big ugly bill, but what's going to be done about it. Who else is in the house with us right now? Could you identify yourself if you so choose? Identify yourself if you so choose. We're gonna wait a while because I got a little problematic start. This stuff with Substack is still kind of news. Beatrice from New York, how you doing, beautiful? Great to have you here. Thank you for being here. You guys did a wonderful thing last week as you proved to the rest of the country that progressive values are still there. And the thing about it is, these values, whether you are progressive or not, the policies are there for you. I can't explain how ecstatic I was to see Mr. Mamdani win. I can never say his first name correctly, so I'm going to put it in and see if I can say. I have to print it out. The name is Zoran Mandami. And humor about the preposterous ugly bill reading all of overnight. I streamed the audio and slept to it. I had to. I have gallows humor. That is funny. But I mean, I want to get more people on to tell you about a few things that that bill is crazy about. But let's see if we can get a few more folks chiming in. I have to figure out a way. I didn't send direct emails when the show started. Maybe that's what I need to do in the future. Um, I didn't want to clog up people's email box, but maybe the next time I will, when this stuff starts, I will go ahead and tell it to start with the tell it to go ahead and provide the emails. Make it put out the emails because I didn't do that. Anyway, Joe, how are you doing this afternoon? And Beatrice, how are you doing? Please know that you can call me at 281, and let me put that number in the chat at 281 823. Let's see, 7747. Sometimes it takes a while before this stuff rings people's phones, but I'm not sure if I clicked the button to make it ring people's phones. So I don't know. Anyway, so you can call me at 281-823-7747. If there's something specific that you want us to talk about, discuss, it is your show. Anyway, last night, if you saw what they did to Murkowski, Murkowski was almost going to say no to the bill, to making it go into debate, but they pretty much, from what I understand, they pretty much told her that they'll fix it, that a lot of the Medicaid cuts that the rest of the country would face, somehow, I don't know how they would do it because I don't know if that is even legal or not. They may find a way to exempt her from that. I don't see how that is possible, but that seems to be the route that they're taking to get different folks to join the bill. Now, as you know, Tom Tillis decided that he was not going to support the bill, and after Donald Trump just about slaughtered him, he decided to come out and say that he's not going to run it at all. Welcome aboard, Barbara. Like I put in the chat, the number, if you want to call in and say something directly, is 281-823-7747. I'm holding out a while to see if we get a few more people. I didn't do the best of advertising. I didn't do the best of putting the link out. Joe said she had problems finding the link. Did you have problems finding the link as well, Barbara? Let's see. Beatrice says, glad to be here. Yes, labels are not nearly as important as the content and the accuracy of the message. Members of the legislature are more concerned about their job than their constituents. And the thing about it, you wonder, Beatrice, how are they going to look into the eyes of the little kids of the parents who believed in them and they decide to go ahead and pass this bill anyway? This is not a joke. And this is not about, Donald Trump is a madman. And I don't say that facetiously. The man is a madman. And the rest of the world, I think, at some point is going to have to realize that they're not dealing with a normal person. The rest of our country is going to have to realize that they're not dealing with a normal person and act accordingly. Because somebody is unstable, somebody is leading the country down a rabbit hole, and you follow him because you're fearful that he may say something to activate his cult. Well, at some point it's going to come at a head, and it's probably best for it to happen now. But instead, what we're doing is we're waiting for this. Well, all right, we have four people. I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the stuff that I want to discuss today. And what I'd like to ask you, if there's anything specific that you want to ask, put it in the chat or give me a call at the number that I presented. But anyway, when the bill came out, I decided I wanted to just check a couple of things, right? Now, the bill is a 940 page monstrosity. We all know that, right? But luckily, I pay for a professional version of ChatGPT. So what I can do is I can feed the entire bill into ChatGPT and then ask questions about what's in the bill that I want, so I can get to where I want to get immediately. So I asked ChatGPT if the bill, as many have been talking about, is still intent on selling off our public treasure or public lands. And it said, after it researched the document, which is 940 pages long, it pointed to section 503, title 5, subtitle C, section 50301. And it says the following: lands contains a section that mandates the mandatory disposal. Check it out. Check out the word. The mandatory disposal of Bureau of Land Management land for housing. I want you guys to understand that. Mandatory disposal. So if a private developer decides that they want a piece of land owned on public lands, it is mandated in this bill that our public lands be sold, currently under the stewardship of the Bureau Land Management for the purpose of housing development. This represents a sharp turn toward privatization of public assets, continuing a long-standing conservative objective to reduce federal stewardships of land and turn public goods over to private interests under the guise of housing or economic development. The tricks that these guys are using to privatize the country is astounding. I'm going to tell you what a lot of this means in a little bit. But it says, moreover, other sections in the same subtitle, like Section 503.02 on timber sales and long term contracting, and Section 503.05 on the rescission of National Park Services and BLM funds, further suggesting a dismantling or weakening of public land protections and funding. These provisions indicate a coordinated strategy to make federal lands more exploitable for private profit, whether for real estate, as we know, extractive industries, meaning mining, meaning oil extraction, etc., or timber harvesting, meaning sell to private sector a whole forest, and they can clear cut that whole forest, no management of that land. In summary, the bill not only sells off public lands, but also undermines environmental oversight and public ownership in favor of market driven exploitation, a hallmark of Republican economic ideology, but one that poses serious risks to conservation, indigenous right, and public access. Look, let me tell you, if you'd like the breakdown of the exact language fixed from wife, language in section 501c3, you can go ahead and look at it. But here it is. Joe says, insanity following insanity, like follow the leader to the destruction to hell. So upset. But my point is the others are equal and more to blame. I have no idea what will make anyone realize. Look, let me tell you what makes this dangerous as well. In if you look at a country like Venezuela, right? Venezuela has more natural resources. Venezuela is like a mini Africa, a mini continent of Africa. The continent of Africa is loaded with every resources known to man. It is the most resource rich country. I mean, not country, continent in the world, from both flora, fauna, and minerals. Now, Venezuela is sort of like that. It has gold, it has silver, it has oil, but it has, I think it is uh, the the largest reserve of oil on the planet. Let me make sure that let's see. I think it's the largest. Which country? Let me get it. Make sure I want to be accurate. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Which country has the largest oil reserve? Right. I think right now it is still Venezuela. But Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. As of recent estimate, they hold 300 billion barrels of oil. Saudi Arabia has the second largest, followed by Canada and Iran. And what do you notice about those countries? We are in bed with Saudi Arabia. As long as they do what we want, we're in bed with them. But Venezuela doesn't allow us to just come and take their resources, so they're a pariah state. Iran doesn't allow us to just take their resources, so they're a pariah state. Canada, suddenly, Canada is no longer our great friend. The fourth largest amount of oil found in Canada. So we have always been this oil extractive country, right? And then uh, what we find is all of these countries, for all practical purposes, right? The oil belong to the public. I'm not sure about how Canada does it, but in all these other countries, in the case of Saudi Arabia, to the monarchy, I guess, but in Venezuela, in Iran, the oil belongs to the people. That doesn't work in America. We have a ton of public lands, and we drill on those public lands. We mine on those public lands. And other than a minor royalty that's paid to the United States government, the owners of these companies, the shareholders of these companies, get all the spoils of the land. They get all the royalties, etc. Now, here's the magic. You go ahead and sell off these resources to private companies, right? So you sell 1 million acres to some company, whereas you would have even got a menial royalty for whatever is developed on that land. Now you've sold the land. All the spoils underneath that land, above that land, and around that land goes to the private owner of that land. The government now has nothing to do with it. That's the kind of selling off of the country that we're doing. That should be considered a felony. That you're pretty much selling off the country to pass a big tax cut. That is part of it, right? You have to understand what's going on here. That is why they're doing this with the land management. Beatriz says many of the legislators do not have to face the people they have deceived. They only care when they are personally affected. The term housing is amorphous. Housing can be private housing, private development for further ownership of public land by the privileged few. They will ruin our ecology further, diminish our beautiful natural resources. You nailed it, Beatriz. You nailed it. That is exactly what we're talking about. So, that provision in the bill, if it stays in the bill and if it makes it through the Senate and goes back to the House and it makes it through, we are talking about selling off our resources. Welcome aboard, Adam W. Thank you for being here. We're talking about selling off our resources. Don't forget, guys, if you want to call in, 281-823-7747. Of course, I'm reading the chat as well. All right, the second topic that I wanted to talk about the bill is it's even more deceptive. First of all, that first topic with selling off the public lands has various implications. Uh, Hi, Adam. Had to help my dad get cleaned up. Great, great, Adam. I'm glad that you're here, my brother. Um, Look, it is devious what they're doing with selling off the public lands, right? Because, like I said, now all the resources under that land, all the resources from the land, whether it be lead timber, whether it be animal resources, whether it be mineral resources, all now belong to the private owner. No royalty, etc., paid to the government as they extract. Not like the royalty was all that much anyway. We were always donating the minerals from our public lands to a few shareholders. That's how a capitalist system works, right? Now, so we understand that part. But here is the other thing that the other devious piece in the bill. And it goes like this: the one big beautiful big act includes a new federal tax credit that allows donors, parents or not, to make contributions to scholarship granting organizations called SGOs. Hi, Sandra Dingler, welcome aboard. I repeat, check this out. This should blow your mind. That it allows uh, parents or anybody to make contributions to scholarships granting organizations that support private and religious school vouchers. I'm going to show you the danger in this. This provision's structured as a dollar for dollar credit capped at either $5 billion per year in the House version or $4 billion annually in the Senate version. Let me show you how dangerous this is. A critical feature of this credit is that it allows donors to give appreciated assets like corporate stocks directly to the SGO, that's the scholarship granting organizations, and avoid capital gains tax on those assets. You may say, big deal. What's the big deal in that? Let me explain. Let's say I bought a stock for $100, right? I bought a stock for $100. Let's say that stock appreciated by $1,000. So that's $100 stock that I bought is now worth $1,100. If I sell that stock, listen, I want you to listen carefully. If I sell that stock for $1,100, I would have to pay capital gains taxes on the appreciation, meaning I'll have to pay capital gains taxes on $1,000. That capital gains tax would turn out to be around $238. All right, for every stock. Okay, so again, I may have thousands of that stocks. But guess what I can do? I can go ahead and say, I will donate that $1,100, not 100, that $1,100 to a religious school, a private school, right? That gives out vouchers, and for giving away that $1,100, I don't get a write-off. I get a tax credit. Okay? I get a tax credit. I'm glad to hear that Mike Lee scrapped the plan this morning. We'll see if it sticks because it has to go back to the House, Joe. But these are things we have to be aware of. So thank you for giving that information, Joe. Now, here's the deal, folks. I give $1,100. Remember that was a stock I bought for $100. It appreciated to $1,100. I don't pay any tax on that for selling that stock because I give the proceeds to a religious school or a school that gives vouchers. And for giving that, when I do my taxes, I get a tax credit, not a tax write off, a tax credit. So the United States government says, okay, since you gave $1,100 to that school, we will drop the taxes that you owe by $1,100. So it's an $1,100 gift. I gave a gift to the school, but I gave nothing. It's a transparent way for the government to pass $1,100 to that school. You know, no politician is gonna risk donating to. I mean, risk having the federal government can't just give $1,100 to a school doing vouchers, but you can. And if you do, the law now says we give you back all your money as a tax credit. You get it back. And then you can go ahead and purchase that stock all over again and put it back in your portfolio and then wait for it to appreciate and get more capital gains. It is all these tricks that they do for wealthy people, but they do it in such a manner that it seems like it's not doing that. Who goes to these private schools? Wealthy people. So here's the other kicker, and this is what I want to show about multiplying your money. Let's say it costs me, let's say my kid, it costs $20,000 for this private school, right? I give $20,000 of appreciated assets to that school, right? The government gives me back the $20,000. So I still have $20,000. And then that scholarship fund gives my daughter a $20,000 scholarship. What did I just do? Let the government pay for my kid's education. A rich person allowing the government to pay for the education and at the same time keep that school, that voucher given school, that religious school open. So we do several things, folks. Not only do we give away some more money to the wealthy, we also create policy that allows these private schools to exist because they're funded indirectly by the government. I mean, and there are a lot of these special things in the bill, and I haven't found all of them yet. I just pass it through ChatGPT to pull some of these things out. All of these things need to be publicized. And the reason they have to be publicized is that they're written in a manner that people don't see the damage that it's doing or that it's really yet another handout to the rich, yet another one of your tax dollars being used for the wealthy. You know, it is amazing. And they call themselves moral. And they call themselves moral. Let me ask a question. Was was that clear what I explained in the trick that they did there? Was that clear how that person really gave a donation, but the government gave him back the donation that he gave, and then again, his kid could actually go to school for free if that same scholarship organizations gave her a scholarship? Did I make that? Was that clear enough? Because I'm going to talk about this on my radio show tomorrow morning, and I want to make sure that I that the interpretation that I gave you is one that you understood. So that I do a good enough job of explaining that. Please let me know that, because this is some serious stuff, folks. This is some serious stuff that is happening. So those are the two specific points that I wanted to make known. Very clear. Got free school for kid, and he gets praised as a generous person for making a donation, and then he gets it right back. And then he gets it right back. So he donated. The government gave him back the donation that he gave, and his kid can go to school for free. While the regular middle class folks have to fight to get their kids to college or go to high school, a good high school, etc. These are the kinds of things that we have in the bill to protect the wealthy. Let me give another example. This one has to do with the no tax on tips. I was very disappointed in how Warner, Senator Warner, described the issue today, because he didn't stand up for it correctly. As you know, Donald Trump came out with no tax on tip. And everybody sits down there and it's like, how comes Democrats didn't come out with that? Tip workers, the average tip worker, don't make a lot of money. You go to your restaurants, you go to your basic hotels, etc. They either get their tips in cash, or if they go through their employer, they get their tips. But their total salary is not all that much, right? And you get a deduction. Let me back up. Before I finish here, let me just answer Joe. Joe says he got a tax write-off too, right? Okay, no tax write-off. Here's what happens. You can either get a tax write-off or you can get a tax credit. You don't get them both. But if you ask me, do I want a tax write-off or a tax credit? I want a tax credit. A tax credit lowers my bill by the amount that I spend. A tax deduction only gives me a percentage, whatever bracket I'm in. So let me give an example. That $1,100, a tax credit gives him the whole 1,100 back. A tax, what you call a tax write-off only gives him, let's say he's in the highest percentage bracket, only gives him 37% of that. I'm sorry, it's not 37%. It gives him back 23.8% of that, because it would have been capital gains that comes to pass from that. So it's much better. A tax credit is like the best. If you pay a lot of taxes, you want tax credits. And that's what they give them. Deduction, exactly. Andrew 8MW says, every time I go to McDonald's or a local gas station chain to buy my dad junk food because that is what he wants, and I unfortunately fall victim and might as well run an IV of grape into my veins. But every time I go to those places, I tip the cash. I tip in cash. That's great. I cannot tell you how happy they are, how appreciative. Yeah, but here's the magic. The people that get tips, right? The standard deduction on their return generally covers all their income, so that they can't even take advantage of the no tax on tip deduction. It's so important that people get that. That money was not going to be tipped anyway because of the standard deduction. But you know whose money is going to be tipped? Those high end. If you're a work in one of those high end restaurants where your base salary is $100,000 and they give you tax benefits, etc. Welcome aboard, J and B. Then that no tax on tips makes sense because you make enough money that it makes sense. So notice what they're doing. No tax on tips. Why don't they just change it to a tax credit if you don't make X amount of dollars? But you see, that would be giving money to poor people. The Republicans don't believe in giving money to poor people. They believe in giving money to rich people, people that already have money. So therefore, the tax on tip is a joke. Because most of the people that think I am going to vote for Trump because there's no tax on tip are overtime. You weren't paying taxes, federal income taxes of any substantive method on overtime or tips anyhow. But let me tell you what happens. In order for no tax on tips, you gave up no tax on tips for Medicaid, for no Medicaid. You gave up tax on tips for no SNAP. You gave up tax and tips for all these for no Obamacare insurance. You gave up tax on tips here, and now you have to pay. Let me give you for those people who are on the people who are on Obamacare, right? Obamacare subsidizes your premium, your healthcare premiums. So when they're talking about 16 people losing their healthcare, 16 million people losing their healthcare, what they don't tell you is going to be more than that. And let me explain why. Because they're getting rid of the subsidies on Obamacare that was passed via Obamacare, the Obamacare, what you call not restitution, but they were reconciliation. So there, because Obamacare, a piece of Obamacare was done through reconciliation, they are going to get rid of it through reconciliation as well. So people who are used to paying maybe $150 for their health insurance because it was subsidized by Obamacare, that's gone. So now your health care that you were used to having subsidized and just paying $150, and some people paying nothing at all for Obamacare, they're now going to find themselves with $700, $800, $900 bill for health care. They can't afford that. So they will just go without health care, and they don't qualify for Medicaid because they are in that area that they make too much for Medicaid and not enough for Obamacare. But you don't have tax on tips. People, when I tell you the bill is bad, and when I tell you the things that they're putting in there and what it's going to do to folks, it's no joke. Joe says, I lived working restaurants 2 decades. I usually got a refund already for any tip tip taxes taken, of course, because you didn't make enough past the standard deduction. After there's this stuff called taxable your adjusted gross income, and but you pay your taxes on your adjusted on your taxable income. And when you're done doing your standard deduction and a few other things, your taxable income is generally so small, and on that, a small portion of that are tips. It's amazing. Beatrice says the democratic machinery, the political machinery over here in New York is losing its mind. Billionaires and other special interests folks take, for example, Bill Ackman will bankroll anyone he perceives will be able to beat Zornan. They are knives out. They have no shame, and they don't give a damn about the common man. And I think it's good because what they're going to generate, Beatrice, is hate. I don't know if you saw Mandami on Meet the Press today. Every time I listen to that guy, I always say this guy is a politician beyond his years because he's so smooth. He's so good in the way he answers the questions with no animosities. I think when those billionaires start to bankroll others, he will be able to turn that money against them. So let them do it. Let the billionaires do it and let them talk about leaving New York. Where the hell are they going to go, Beatrice? Where are they going to go? And they're running from 2%, an increase in 2% on their taxes. They're running from. They're billionaires. They can't spend all that money. They're running from 2% in order to give people good transportation, in order to give people good grocery stores that they can eat healthy foods. They don't want to give 2% to help these people that are struggling. They don't want to give rent control as they're making millions of just a standard piece of rock standing up, a piece of cement called a building that's been there for over 100 years with making money after money on rents on these buildings. Free money with little maintenance. When I think what we will be able to do and what I intend to do and other progressive broadcasters intend to do is to expose them for the evil they represent. They have a billion and can't give 2% for people that are struggling in New York, even as all these buildings are paid for. Oh, I want them. Look, I want the class warfare, Beatrice. I want it. That's why, look, I wrote the book, man, not to be self promoting, but this book, as I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right wing doom. And I should actually have said the only resort to right wing and neoliberal doom, right? But it explains it all. It explains it all. Eric Adams was on Demon Lemon the other day, trashing Mandami. Meanwhile, Adams is a flat out paid off corrupt mayor that only saved himself from prison by agreeing to allow the Trump regime to come into New York City and have ICE snatch people off the streets. Yeah, that's all it was about. Yeah, I know you meant Don Lemon. I know who you meant. So again, folks, I hear you, brother. I hear you. So that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about today. Now, if there's anything that you guys want me to mention or comment about, or if any of you want to call in, feel free to do so. Let's see. Jane B in North Carolina says, "I need to read that book." Yeah, it's really a good book. It's really a good book. And I look, you are a paid subscriber. If you can, if you want to be nice and get a hard copy, you can get it at Amazon by politicsdoneright.com/books. But you can already read it, my beautiful Jane, because guess what? You are a paid subscriber. It's on. All my books are online. I think I have a few chapters yet to upload on this, and I'm gonna work on that over the next week or two. But all my books are online for you beautiful paid subscribers. It's online for you to see right now. I got to update the chapters, so I hope you don't read too fast. That I go ahead and update the rest of the chapters. I think there's a last. I think I did this one last for some reason, and I don't know what chapter I'm up to in uploading it, but I'll upload the other chapters shortly. Anyway, so yeah, there are two books I want that would be good to read. That one and How to Make America Utopia, because people act like if it is so impossible to have good things for all of us. It is not impossible, beautiful folk. It's not. We just have allowed ourselves, we have just allowed ourselves to believe that the billionaires are the ones in control. I look forward to reading your books. Thank you, brother. They are available on Substack. Absolutely. As a paid subscriber, all my books are available on Substack, all five. And any new book that I write will also be on Substack. In fact, when I first did this stuff, I did it on another platform. And as I release chapters, I would put it on the email, put it on right away. I may start doing that with the other book that I'm writing. I may just go ahead and start putting it building it on Substack as well. I'll think about it. But yeah, okay, I will. I see you as very knowledgeable. Well, thank you, Jane B. I appreciate your support. I really do appreciate your support. Let me just tell you that I read a lot, and if you notice, what I try to preach is nobody, nobody is my enemy. MAGA is not my enemy. Nobody. Do you recommend which book to start with? I tell you what, I would start, if you're going to read them all, I would start with the one, How to Talk to Your Right Wing Relative Friends and Neighbors. And the reason I would start there is just because you want to talk, I mean, I think it gives you a lot of information, but it also talks about how do we talk to our, how don't make these guys get you mad, right? When you know your stuff and you try to meet them where they are, it's better. I mean, I know a lot of you get mad because I tolerate a lot of the right wingers, but I want to show a certain amount of respect. And if you notice, a lot of them eventually, even though they still don't want to believe what we're talking about, they still show a level of respect. So, that's where I'm at. But that's where I'm at. But anyhow, let's see. Adam says, "Yep, that would help me. So far, I have only been successful at almost being ended by." I hear you, Adam W. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. We're going to still play around with these times when we have these programs. Now, is there anything else anybody else want to talk to me about or want to call in? Let me know, and if not, I'll just kind of shut us down. But I really appreciate you coming, and like I said, this is your time, the paid subscribers' time. um, the one thing I'll ask you is encourage others to become paid subscribers. We are about 500 and I think 570 now, 570 people away from going up to the next tier on Substack, which would give us some more visibility and would allow me to get some help in doing some videos, etc. So encourage your friends if you don't mind to become paid subscribers. Again, we work hard at this, and I know that you know that we you come first. Um, Now let's see. So anybody else? Again, anybody anything that I need to talk about before I go? No, thank you for having Focus on Sundays. I have encouraged many. I see some people I have discussed your channels with are now subscriber. Thank you so kindly for that, my friend. Okay, I'm going to shut her down. I want to thank you guys first of all for coming. I want to thank you guys for being subscribers, for being paid subscribers. It does make a difference. It is really hard work. So I thank you so kindly. Uh, and also, I want to thank you most of all for staying engaged in our body politic. A lot of people have given up. And what we need to do is get them re engaged because it's together that we are going to be able to make that change. It is together we are going to be able to make that change. So, since I don't have any calls or no other information yet, I want to thank you all for coming. Have a great, great rest of your weekend, whatever is left of it. I have a few more vlogs to write tonight that you'll be seeing as a newsletter coming to you shortly. Thank you. Love you all. Have a great day. Adios.